Howdy and welcome to today's show. Unfortunately, we had a little bit of mishap with the video of this week's show. We only have the first segment available on full video. If you'd like to watch that, you can do that here. But this is just the audio version because we had problems with the second and third segment recording. Sorry about that. Still getting used to this new camera setup. You can always listen here or subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. If you like today's show, please hit the like button, hit subscribe. It really helps us out. Thanks. God bless. And enjoy today's show. What's up? And welcome to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Schroll. That is Allison Sullivan. Allison,
hi, Taylor. So good.
Good. I'm glad you are.
Yeah.
I like that you started answering my questions before I finished asking them.
I know what's coming.
We're going to try it again.
Sometimes.
How old are you? You didn't answer. What's your favorite color?
Olive purple.
Olive purple? Like olives are purple? Well,
sometimes. Smush them up.
Who's your favorite
Taylor.
radio host? There you go! Yay! We did it. All right. Our high five wasn't very good, but the rest of it was.
That could be perfected. There's time.
Happy day to you.
Happy day, Taylor.
It is a day that we are recording, and it's a day that people are listening. So happy day to you.
It is. It's a happy day in our normal lives. I'm celebrating some normalcy. We're both a little drama-free right now, aren't we?
We are.
Yeah.
That reminds me of the Dramamine commercial. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean... Take it when you don't want to have any drama.
Oh. That's clever. Good
I think
for
it was
them.
an SNL skit or something like that.
Oh, okay. Not a real commercial.
No. They're not.
I take Dramamine, and then I have missed 24 hours of my life. Knocks me flat out. I need it, though. I'm a little sensitive to motion of all kinds. You? Do you need Dramamine?
No.
Are you flailing around?
What happens?
You're trying to make me sick, aren't you?
What happens?
You want me to barf on your show.
What happens when there's lots of movement?
Rude. I'm
currently doing hand motions for those just listening on the podcast.
Yeah.
So things have been pretty normal recently.
Yeah.
I was talking to you, I was like, what's been going on?
Yeah.
There have been a couple things. And so the rest of this segment is going to prove that there were actually two things that were actually really cool. But usually there are a lot of things that happen that are either cool or really bad or
something
somewhere on the spectrum.
Yeah.
But the last few weeks, when I'm doing show prep, I'm like, I edited 18 podcasts this week, played a lot of video games, ate dinner. There wasn't much super special.
Did some chores. Well, this should be a nice reprieve. I was texting with my best friend a month ago or whatever, and she was out of her mind and I was out of my mind, and we ended up texting being like, we cannot be out of our minds at the same time. We have to take turns for this stuff, And so I feel like our our normal lives, it's like trying to balance out the headlines. I think that's what's happening. It's like we need some normalcy to balance out all the cray.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Speaking of cray, though, we had something quite cray. Happened this past weekend.
Snow cray.
That was good.
Yeah.
It was like snow. I see what you're saying. So here in the Republic of Texas, last Wednesday it was 85 degrees. I stepped outside and was immediately sweating.
Yeah.
And then 2 days later, it snowed.
Yeah.
And once every 2 years, the weather people are like, it's gonna snow in Texas.
Yeah, which is like a little dusting. And we all celebrate and try to catch a flake on our tongues or something.
Cold rain. That usually doesn't happen.
Right. It does not amount to anything at all.
Other than a cold,
Right.
Because here it's wet and cold, which means I get sick. So I didn't trust these weather people because they lie.
We've been disappointed so many times.
Right. So we didn't get our white Christmas, but this past weekend, they said it was going to snow. And boy, it snowed.
Did it ever? It was real.
We're in
This was not a dusting. This was a blizzard.
It wasn't a blizzard. But fair enough comparatively to our normal life.
I tried to drive home and nothing was working. Texans are not prepared for this. I lived in Minnesota. I know,
Wait, when?
Yeah, I lived in Minnesota for 4 years. Great state. Made really good friends.
When
and it
was this?
snowed a lot after San Diego. Did you know I lived in San Diego? Let me take you through a timeline of my life.
It's so weird to me that I knew you lived in a foreign country.
Right.
But I didn't know you lived in
Minnesota. So we're really accustomed to snow, and that was legit snow. Like, we needed a snowplow. I mean, it was a little dicey on the road. I had to drive home and right in it, and was reminded of all my good tricks. Pump the brakes, pump the brakes.
When did you live in Minnesota?
Okay, so Seth was finishing medical training in
Medical school.
Can you see it? I've got it pictured.
Yeah.
So he looked like Axl Rose at the 80s party. Okay, so yeah, he was finishing medical training in Rochester at Mayo.
Those are words?
Yeah.
Cool. Back to the snow.
Yeah, right.
So it snowed here at our house.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, my house and your house are separate houses. 5 to 6 inches.
Yeah.
In Texas. It was wild. Like, we're just sitting in here, and then we go outside, and there's snow.
And it stuck.
Right.
Like, for days.
4 days later, there were still, like, pieces of snow on the roof and stuff.
It was so exciting.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah. And you know what was, I feel like we really needed it. We, as just like this collective whole, I mean, everybody was outside doing the exact same things, you know, doing the best we can to like suit up appropriately, because Texans don't have appropriate gear, most of us anyway. But we're all, you know, making the same snowballs, celebrating the same storm, taking the exact same pictures, building the same snowmen. And it was this really solidifying thing that I was really needing in my spirit. There are these moments, whether it's, I don't know, like in church when you can hear everyone turn the same page, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Or like in yoga where it's like everyone's...
By the way, on the page turn thing,
yeah,
I always do it early because I don't want to be part of the crowd. Like, they're
oh my gosh.
In the reading of the gospel according to Luke. And then Jesus went over to and I'm flipping my
You're
page.
already there. You're like,
the
watch
Strait
this,
of Gibraltar. And, I don't know why Jesus was at this.
You are such a contrarian, Taylor. Okay, so you're about to roll your eyes at what I'm about to say, and that's fine. I like making you roll your eyes. But there are these moments where it's like we're all doing the same things. I think yoga, like everybody's wrists are popping at the same time, or ankles or whatever. And there's
I've done yoga 8 times, and I'm always behind because I'm like, I can't move this way.
But you probably like snap, crackle, pop at all the same times as all the other people. And it's just this, like, when that happens, when like these things that are just people things happen to everyone at the same time, it's so endearing to me. It's like, well, look at us being people together. We do belong to each other. And this was one of those moments, like everybody was taking the same pictures. Everybody was celebrating the same thing. And it was this really unifying moment that felt really good.
Yeah, so my kids, my 2 oldest had seen snow. It snowed here 3 or 4 years ago.
Right.
Like uh-huh. So they had seen snow, but they were like
yours
2
are
and
little,
3,
yeah.
You know, so they didn't like remember. So this is the first ones, like they didn't remember it, and they ask for snow all the time. They're like, you know, like you know what we see it in all the movies. I'm like, yeah, that's all you're getting.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
And so we went outside, and like, so I have a almost 8-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 3-year-old. Mm-hmm. Who do you think won the snowball fight?
Well, Taylor.
No, I had.
Did you pelt the mess out of your kids?
I had my new very expensive camera to take the pictures that everybody was taking.
Your pictures were really great.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
The 3-year-old won. Like,
nice.
She consistently knew that, like, I mean, like, unlimited ammo. Like, she didn't like pick one up, stop, throw, and then like run away.
She had a system.
She constantly like chased after people, threw a snowball, like as she was running, like dipped down, grabbed snow. She's so low to the ground.
Buddy the Elf style.
She completely won. She had a blast. It was the first time she had seen snow.
I love it.
My wife loved it. She looked gorgeous in the snow.
Yes.
She's from San Antonio, so snow is not usually in her life.
Yeah.
So it was just fun. It was just cool to have something new. And then for 4 days, like in the midst of what had been like a very normal,
right?
Like just kind of everybody stuck in our homes for 3 weeks. It was just nice to get out and have something new. Like even when I was inside doing the normal things, I would walk out and I'd look outside and be like, "There is snow here. Right. I forgot about that."
Right?
You know?
Yeah, it was a really good celebration. And to be honest, like the first day that it was happening, I wasn't really feeling it. Not because it wasn't beautiful. I wasn't in a mood to be out in it. And so I was so glad that we had the next day to kind of change moods and be like, okay, here comes the snowman. So we had multiple days to kind of experiment with it. But I've just spent the last, I don't know how long really, but maybe it's just election cycle and all of that, just feeling a little soul sick at how different people can be, like that's kind of taken a toll on me. It just feels sad. And this was such joy, all caps, joy.
Yeah. And what was funny is like, obviously it was an experience. I mean, most of Texas got it. Our Houstonian friends, like where we are, mostly friends, got nothing.
They were so mad.
But everyone else in the world, like, was happy because they were like, not only were we enjoying it because we're Texan, we never get it.
Yeah.
All of our northern friends were like, "Oh, look at the cute little Texans,
so cute
calling
of you."
it a blizzard."
Right. But they understand that it's like, let me live my life. It's going to be 80 tomorrow.
Right.
So
exactly.
Yeah.
And like, so like our friend Father Daryl, the priest up in Canada, like 3 days after we got our snow, he got like an actual blizzard, and we were like, yeah, but I mean, it wasn't as much as we got comparatively.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like
it's all relative
crazy for us. But it was just so much fun. It was fun to see like all of our friends on social media and stuff, sharing pictures and seeing the joy of the kids and seeing other people be joyful because we're joyful. Like there was a lot of this like togetherness in a time where there hasn't been much together.
Where we need it.
Right. Any other thoughts on snow?
Snow, thank you.
Snow, thank you. Okay, so there was one other thing that like broke into my normalcy.
Okay.
Because like legitimately, like I've spent 40 to 60 hours editing audio a week. Like I'm sitting right here at this computer desk.
Yeah.
And it's great. Like I love working, but it has just been kind of repetitive. And like play video games is fine. Like I got my new Xbox, still super excited about playing that. But like a lot of that for me is like a social thing too. And a lot of my friends were really busy over the last 2 weeks. So it was just kind of like me.
Yeah.
And like, so there was a lot of good family time. Like my family and I, like my son and I have been watching like all the Marvel movies, him for the first time. My wife and I have like finished multiple shows.
I get sick of myself after a while though.
I'm always sick of myself. My wife and I, we help us decide if this was a grand feat or a defeat.
Okay.
My sister, God love her, shared her Hulu password with us.
Oh.
Like right at like New Year's. And we were recording this 2 weeks into New Year's. And I have watched 2.5 seasons of Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Oh,
so,
darn, I don't know what that is. I was really hoping to...
22 episodes a season. So we're like 60 episodes
Are they an hour long?
They're 30 minutes long.
Okay, yeah.
We watched 60 of them.
That's easy to do. Because really it's like 21 minutes.
Yeah, sure. That makes you feel better.
Yeah,
That's what takes it from a defeat to a grand feat.
It's a feat. It's a feat. I like it.
And it's fun too because like, I mean, there's some things that the kids probably shouldn't be watching, but the good thing is like the things that they shouldn't see, they don't understand what it is.
Yeah, right. Like that's a sweet spot of parenting right there.
It's like silly enough and like over the top enough that they like it. And we've all been saying, not a doctor, shh, which is like the little like tagline at the end.
Okay.
Like the whole family's been saying it. It's like Brooklyn Nine-Nine fans understand that. But it's just really funny to hear like a 3-year-old, not a doctor.
Shh. That's hilarious. I could actually use that a time or two on Facebook.
It was funny. But so other than this normalcy, I actually have to do a check-in with you. Last time you were on the show a month ago, we talked about how there was like nothing had been going on in my life then either. And then all of a sudden these 2 grand opportunities came up. Right?
Yes.
My 2 friends getting married, one of whom is a very close friend of mine. She makes all the images for like this show. Like every time this show gets shared, it's because she created that image.
Nice.
Like,
yes. We all love her.
Great friends. And she was getting married on the same day that I got offered to do a retreat, which used to be my life, and I haven't done them in almost a year, and I could have used the money, and we had that whole conversation.
Yes.
Right? And I ended up choosing the wedding.
Yes.
The wedding was this past Saturday.
Yes.
And I cannot tell. So like we went to the mass and like the wedding mass, and like we took the kids to that. And that was nice. I mean, it's a pretty typical wedding mass. She's just so silly. Like most people are like kind of serious in the wedding. She's just not a serious person. Like she's really silly. So she was kind of silly as she was walking. Like as she's walking down the aisle, she looks at her dad. She's like, "I'm getting married."
No, that is so refreshing.
So
I love it.
But,
yeah.
So that was fine. But then we hired a babysitter from the internet. BCS sitters, like a local babysitting thing, and we hope they don't kill our kids. And she didn't. Our kids are still alive. We played in the snow. You heard
Perfect.
us. But we got a babysitter for 5 hours, which is the longest we've ever had a babysitter that wasn't like, here, mom,
Yeah.
So I have this whole retreat thing going on that my friend is leading, so I can see how it's going. And I tell you what, when we get to the reception, no kids, we're paying for a babysitter for 5 hours.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like spending money
This is
on this
going
day.
to be worth our while.
Well, I can't tell you how nervous I was that it wasn't going to be worth our
Oh gosh,
while.
right.
There was so much writing on this.
Yes.
So we head into the party, and the venue was gorgeous, and it was one of those things like all of our friends were there.
Yeah.
Like other
the
than
same
like my
place, it's so
friends
fun.
from like my hometown, 90% of the people that I know and have spent my life with the last 5 years were there that I haven't really interacted with.
Oh, that's great. That's
the last 10
exactly
months.
how it should be.
So we walk in, and I cannot tell you how much fun we had at this.
Oh, that makes me happy.
It was so great. The actual like party was just so much fun. Just being around our people was fun. My wife loved it. I actually danced with her for more than one song, so she enjoyed that. Like it was so good.
Now she's the dancer and you're not. Like,
I hate dancing.
Okay,
I'm
I think I remember
I'm not
this.
Built for this. Like, you remember, like we went to a dance together, like you, me, and Liv, and all of our.
Yes.
I almost said siblings. All of our spouses.
Same.
All of our spouses.
Oh no, not
went,
same.
Went to the. Well, for me, it's Samantha Schroll and Samantha Schroll, but they are two different people. My sibling and my wife have the same name. It gets very confusing. But. Yeah, like I'm not a big we danced, we had a good time.
I love it.
The food was great, the drinks were great. Like it was just a grand time, and it was so worth my difficult decision of saying no to very helpful money.
Right. I love it when that pays off. It's like, okay, so you had this dilemma. You stop and picture yourself making one of the decisions, and then whichever one feels most peaceful. Okay, we're going to go with that. We're going to do that. And then being on the other side of it and being like, yes, awesome. And by the way, I heard from many other people that were at that wedding that it was all caps amazing. So I love that. So Seth and I had a similar wedding. I have to say I was not as present as your friend. Like I was not as chill of a bride. Like she sounds like she was really, really present and amazing. I was a little caught up.
Okay.
That's my advice to all brides is like just be fully present.
I thought the noise that you made. You went blah. That's my advice to all brides.
No, that's me telling you to shush it over there. Anyways,
not a doctor.
But we had a wedding like that where everyone just had an amazing time, and it's because it was New Year's Eve, so everybody was just there. Like they weren't going to waste their New Year's Eve. Right. Like no, this is New Year's Eve, and so it was the party of the century. Like we're still hearing about it, so I love that. That's going to be a fun thing for them that people had so much fun at their wedding.
Yeah, and it is one of those things where it was like, I mean, it was still a difficult. Like even that day, it was difficult. I'm like, I could be making good money that I could use right now, but by the end of the day, it was like I made the right decision.
Yeah.
But also,
it's a peaceful feeling.
One of the big things that we were talking about that made the decision hard was money. Like, I mean, just being honest. Like, I was like, I could have used that money.
Yeah.
Well, that week, the week of the wedding, I got gifted. Like, like people donate to Forte Catholic.
Yeah.
But like, I personally got gifted, like for the holidays.
Yeah.
Almost the exact same amount of money
I knew it.
that I would have gotten at the retreat.
Right.
So, and like part of me is like, that's awesome. Like that's kind of a sign from God, but at the same time, it's kind of like I could have had double. But it was such a good night, and I kind of got the like, the not consolation prize, but like the consolation.
Yes.
In receiving a really similar amount of money. So. Even when it doesn't look like it most times, God's looking out for me, I think. And and I like how you said, going back to the thing you said, it was like, whichever one gave you more peace. And I thought I made it pretty obvious last month when we recorded. I didn't have peace about any of it.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
upset.
I know that you said that, but you knew what was right. And, knowing what's right is often not very difficult, but doing it is, and you did it.
Right. And that was the thing. It's like, I know which answer I'm supposed to choose.
Right.
Right. And I did. And it paid off, which is rare for me.
Look at that.
So I was really
so
happy
proud
about
of you,
it.
Taylor. I think you're growing up or something.
Well, I'm growing.
I don't.
But,
out and up.
Just out. Well, thanks for that, Allison. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
I don't mean it.
This Friday, January 22nd, myself and the entire Forte Catholic crew, me and all 4 co-hosts, are playing a game called Game of Favorites over on twitch.tv/the letter P and Tony. P. Tony is a good friend of mine, Peter. I've been playing this game myself for a while, but none of my co-hosts have ever played, and it's going to be a blast. The game is so much fun. Hilarity ensues. You actually, as viewers, get to decide who the winners are every round. So subscribe to twitch.tv/ptony this Friday from 7 to 8:30 Central, 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Central. We'd love to see you guys there. Come out and hang out with us on this Friday night. What else you got going on? Welcome back to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Schroll. That is Allison Sullivan. And because life has been normal, I have been asking my co-hosts, like, hey, do you have anything
what's going on
you want to talk about? Because my life's boring. And over the last couple weeks, I've gotten like a segment out of the rest of you. Y'all make me still work for the other 2 segments.
Maybe borrow some drama if need be.
Sure. Yeah. And so you sent me one late last night. And you were like, let's talk about cussing. And I was like, cussing's been on my mind a lot recently.
I've been
known to dabble. And you had some thoughts on cussing. So we both have thoughts on it.
Yeah, I do. Just, I don't know if it's thoughts or if that I just think that it would be fun to dive into this with you. For me, if holiness were a diet, my mouth would be the last 5 pounds. It's like, that is like the last thing to really get under control for me. I think that a lot of it has to do with, I love language. I think that there's like a bad stereotype or, that says that it's an excuse to not use words. And I see that completely differently. I think that it helps me get my point across, and I have a penchant for getting my point across. I love it. I love to be understood. I hate being misunderstood. And I feel like there are some certain words that really kind of cut right to the chase, if you know what I mean.
I agree with you. And
yeah.
So I think there are reasons. I like how you framed it. There are reasons not to cuss.
Yes.
And there are other reasons that people say not to cuss, like as a Christian.
Yeah.
And I don't buy them. Like, I totally agree with you that when people are like, you're not civilized enough, you need to use better words. I'm like, Shakespeare isn't going to do it for me when I stub my toe at 3 a.m. Or when I step on a Lego, or John Levin steps on a Cheerio. Like, there are other words that you need to be that I think get the point across.
John, that can be painful. If it's cracked in just the right way, if it's just stale enough.
It's not worse than a Lego.
Okay, but so I think it's Matthew 15. I just looked. But there's this verse that says that what goes into your mouth won't defile you, but what comes out of your mouth is reflective of your heart. So I think with
no cuss words have ever gone into my mouth.
I haven't inhaled any. But I think that the whole point in that is that it really depends on the why. What's the why? What's the meaning behind it? Because I will say, one of the holiest men I know and love is Father Gregory Boyle, and he works with gangsters. Like, he is on the streets of LA doing really, really hard work. And if you watch his documentary, if you read his books, highly recommend all of the above, he is not clutching his pearls at cuss words, and he will occasionally use a few. Now, if you look at his heart and if you look at the purpose, it is intended to bridge a gap. It is intended to make something that he knows and loves accessible. And by the way, cuss words hit different with different populations. And so taking all of that into account, I think goes back to Matthew 15, which says, what's the meaning behind it? What's the heart behind it? What's coming out from your heart? And what's the intent? So am I saying that like cussing's great and we should all do it? No, I'm not. But I do think that I could participate. But you know how there's this you're gonna have to work with me. You're gonna have to be patient with me just for a second.
I've got my bleep button ready.
No, not that way. You can get impatient with me if I'm taking too long to make a point. So hold on. You know how I think it's
whenever I'm getting impatient, I love for people to yell at me, hold on.
I know. And it's like telling a woman to calm down
You need to calm
works
down.
every time. But you know how, okay, so if you have geniuses, 90% of geniuses are left-handed. Now,
then there's the other 10% right here.
that does not mean that if you are left-handed, you are a genius. It just means that 90% of geniuses
my
are
two
left-handed,
siblings.
right? I can name a few too. So likewise, I don't think that if you are not using cuss words, that your heart is great. You know what I mean? So like, if you're not using cuss, okay, so if this is about like something springing from the heart, oh, well, I don't use cuss words, so then my heart must be great. Not so. I don't think that there is that equivalent. So I guess what I'm saying is that just because your language is squeaky clean does not let you off the hook with like this heart inspection.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing. Like when you brought it up, I was thinking about like when I was a teenager. So I got into like just timeline wise, I got into high school. And then I very quickly got into like varsity sports locker rooms.
Sure.
Like in the middle of my freshman year. And that's when like the world of cussing was opened up to me. Right?
Yeah, right.
And started cussing quite a bit. And then around that time was when I started caring about Jesus. Right.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, the first sin that has to go is cussing. Like that's the thing I needed to clean up. Like that's the thing I worked on. And I got to the point where like by the end of high school, I wasn't cussing at all. And I was like, man, I'm super holy.
Yeah.
Right? And at the same time, I'm ruining my own life. I'm ruining other people's
Sure.
lives, all these things. So like, while I think it's a a good goal to have to kind of clean up, like we have, scriptures galore about cleaning up your mouth and cleaning up, like having only the things that come out of your mouth be for edification and be for building people up. But at the same time, for me, it was like, just like you were saying, like the last 5 pounds of the diet, where like a lot of times it is used as a barometer of holiness, where it's like, if you don't cuss, you're super holy.
Yeah.
To where all of us who are in the Catholic world that have any kind of public persona have, or in ministry, right? Even if you're a public persona by being the youth minister at your parish, we all know how to turn it off.
Yeah.
We can all speak without cussing.
Sure.
I've proved that for the last 223 episodes,
Yeah.
right?
Congrats.
But then, we get to playing video games and it's a different story,
Yeah.
right? And it's one of those things where it's like time and place, like you said, situation, like, like the priest using it to help bring gangsters to Jesus is different than me cussing while playing video games. Like, I understand
Sure,
that, right?
yeah.
Like, I'm not saying that it's a good thing, but at the same time, it's like I have realized that I have much bigger things that I need to be working on than not saying words that I don't really know why we can't say them.
Right, right. And I think that's just so. I mean, I think that you could apply this to really anything, that we start to try to manage our outsides because that's easier. That's easier than this deep dive into my heart and soul. I can manage my outside. And I mean, you think about the parable about what's on the inside of the cup. Like, okay, fine. You wash the outside of the dish. Do you want to drink from a moldy cup? Of course not. And so the idea is that we purify the inside, our heart, Matthew 15. We purify our inside, and then that's when it starts to express itself on the outside. And we have this backwards approach to holiness so often. And oftentimes our language is just the easiest thing. It's like the lowest hanging fruit. Oh, well, I can do that. I can manage that on my very own. I don't need his strength to conquer that. But what about that type of dependency? What about that type of neediness of God? I can't do this, and then we invite him into these, really deep, dark spaces where he can really kind of do some transformative work. But for me in cleaning it up is that because I love language, because I love words, it matters. Our language matters. And I have spent so much time and energy just with race stuff, saying those exact words. And so as I was kind of thinking about this and talking about it with you, how hypocritical would it be for me to say, no, your language matters. You need to say things a certain way. You need to not say that. You need to remove that word from your whatever. And then to be like so carefree or not care about language in other ways. So what it comes down for me is love of neighbor. And not everybody feels the same way about this topic. Some people are offended by certain words. Some people are triggered by certain words. Some people do not feel safe around certain words. So I'm just going to love my neighbor. today, starting now.
Starting now. Sam and I are watching a TV show about a serial killer. I was like, how can I say where he's like starts to feel remorse? Like he's like a military guy, blah, blah, blah. He kind of got tricked into this. And then he's starting to feel remorse and wanting to change his life. And he keeps getting in situations because he was kind of in some bad stuff for a long time. There are bad people in his life and around him, and they keep coming after him. So he keeps having to do things.
Yeah.
And he keeps saying, starting today, I'm changing
Starting
my life. He said
today.
that's like, 8 episodes in a row,
But everyone feeling respected around you, I mean, that's an important thing, right? Like, I think that matters.
Right. So, like, obviously, like, I think it's, like, to cuss at someone is one of the most degrading things you can do, right? Yeah. And, like, that's one of those things that's, like, really, can be really hurtful. Like, it's been done to me, I've done it, like, and that's the thing that, like, I really try to, like, not, like, I've dealt with anger for years, and it's, like, what I'm trying to learn, especially over the last couple of years, is just shut up. Like, just... Yeah. I need to just be quiet in those moments. Yeah, because I'll say, and whether it's a cuss word or anything else, I'll say stuff that I don't.
It makes
I want to take back.
Yeah, it makes things land harder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like what was I gonna say?
Sorry, I got you off. But that's like often the intention though. Like I mean for this to land harder here, right now. Yeah. I do think there's also. I hate that you lost your train of thought because that was good. Get it back. I feel like there's also an aspect of what's forbidden. So using it to hurt someone or make a hurtful point even more hurtful, but also just for the titillating factor of it's forbidden. This word is forbidden. I think that there's kind of misuse there too.
Yeah, and like what I never like is like when people are like cussing to cuss.
Yeah, right.
Like,
right.
just to like be cool or to sound cooler. Like that's always I like people being genuine. So like when I'm angry, I'm just like
right.
I don't ever like choose to, Yeah. But one of the things that's been really interesting to me is what you were talking about with like how people take things, right? Yeah. And we talked about this with my sarcasm before. I talked about it with Father Anthony just a few weeks ago on the show, where it's like I can be sarcastic and I can really hurt people's feelings when I didn't mean to, right? So like when it comes to like choosing words and like what people are offended by, I've been asking a lot of really holy people in my life because I grew up with for whatever reason, just the situation that I was always in my life was like, I'm not going to list them, but like the bad cuss words, like the really bad ones, I've always seen those as 8,000 times worse than like saying the Lord's name. Or like taking the Lord's name in vain, like saying God or Jesus in a derogatory, like like you stub your toe and you say it, that sort of way. I've always seen the like bad cuss words as worse than those. Yeah. Right. Okay. And I started realizing I was like that, like not saying those words isn't in the 10 Commandments. Right. Like, it's not as big of a deal. Right. And for me, it's been like this shift because a lot of times in my life when I'm trying not to cuss, I start saying words that aren't cuss words to replace them. Yeah. And those end up being names of God. Yes. And mostly Redwall books. Yeah. Salamandastron, that hurt. That's a joke just for the few Redwall fans. For years in high school when I was trying to stop cussing, I just said book names. Yeah. Redwall, Mariel the Warrior. Like it was a very Ron Burgundy type thing to do. But I started realizing like over the last couple of years that like when I was trying not to cuss, I was actually breaking one of the commandments by trying not to cuss. Interesting. And that's when I realized, like, something's not right here. Yeah. And I know the thing is me. Yeah. But also just, like, in how I think about these things, it's like saying those things needs to be worse for me than the big cuss words, and it's still not. Right. Like, it's still, like, even though I intellectually know now, I just had 30 years of training of, like, don't say those few words. Yeah.
So I just sat around, I'm laughing because I just sat around with a group of very holy women, and they were like, "Oh, do I actually cuss? No, but the sentiment is the same because I just use initials or I use a different voice." One of my friends was like, "Oh, I just say it higher pitched." Like
that makes it better. I agree with her.
Totally the same.
I totally agree with her.
And then someone was like, "Oh, I just leave the space." Like they'll just go about the whole sentence and they'll just leave a white space.
They're like bleeping themselves.
They're bleeping themselves. But the heart behind it is all exactly the same. We were rolling laughing at everybody's strategies to avoid all this.
So I think one of the things for me too is like we've been talking fairly positively about it, but I think one of the things that I also have noticed is that when we've talked before that, like, you know, if it's the last of the sins that we need to get rid of, like there's so much other things that we need to be working on. But I have noticed that I have less control over my mouth when the rest of my spiritual life isn't going well. When my prayer life isn't going well, when I'm struggling with other sins, then it's like, well, what's tacking on this other one? Or I'm just not in a holy enough place to, you know, if I'm not building up the holiness inside, then the non-holiness is coming out, right? And like, so I have noticed that as kind of like a signal of like, hey, there's something going on that needs to be addressed.
Right. Yeah. No, it's good. I think the problem with not pairing it with the deep, dark inside look and inviting Jesus to spaces where we sorely need him is that it can just be another thing to do. And so then we've, like, you know, secured our own salvation and everything's all wrong.
And there's some strange scriptures around this.
Okay.
We're like, you know, Matthew 5:37. All you need to say is simply yes or no. Anything beyond this comes from the evil one. So, like, if we followed this,
right,
this whole podcast would just be like, yes,
no,
yes, no, yes. That's not practical. It's just not practical, Jesus. But, you know, like Ephesians, nor should there be any obscenity, foolish talk, or coarse joking, which are out of place, but rather thanksgiving. It's like, well, I think they are out of place in some places. In other places, they're not. So I think it's just a hard thing. And, like, I think ultimately for me, it's like, okay, we probably shouldn't be saying these things. But at the same time, like, I know at least for me, it's been too big of a focus because I think it's less part of the spiritual life than other sins, you know, pride, lust, greed, all of these things need to be addressed before, you know, I think a lot of people think they're not holy because they cuss, and that's not necessarily true.
I agree with you on that.
Well, good. That's our segment.
I wanted to. Anyway.
Yep. I've had to hold my tongue quite a bit this segment. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. If you want to stay connected with Forte Catholic throughout the week, you can do that on social media at Taylor Schroll on Twitter and Instagram, and at Forte Catholic also on Twitter. We'd love to get to know you guys, get to connect there. You get to see some of the best clips from every show, kind of questions and engagement there. We'd love to see you guys there at Taylor Schroll on Instagram and Twitter, at Forte Catholic on Twitter. See you there. Welcome back to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Schroll. That is Allison Sullivan. And now it's time for our yearly bum-ba-dum-bum-bum State of the Podcast.
So exciting.
You don't know what we're doing.
No, but I love it. I'm here for it.
So every year it's fun for me to look back on the previous year, specifically with the show.
Yeah.
And be like, it's always interesting for me to see what really resonated with people.
Okay.
And to look back on, like, okay, what are, like, every year I release the top 10 episodes, like right at the beginning of the year.
Right.
So here we are, more than halfway done through January, and I haven't released that
And
yet.
you haven't done that yet.
And there's a reason.
There is a reason.
I'm sad.
Oh, what happened?
So here's what happened.
I love that you're sharing this with all your people. I feel like that's really
I thought about not doing it, but
vulnerable
I'm
and transparent. I mean, this is what we're all here for, Taylor.
I was looking at it, and I got real sad at the beginning, and then there was some good news after.
Okay.
So usually, what has happened for the last, like, 4.5, almost 5 years that we've been doing the show is that we have a couple of episodes that get popular and kind of stay on the top 10 list for a while.
Okay.
But for the most part, it's like after every show kind of goes through its cycle, you know, the first, like, 6 to 10 weeks, like, a lot of our most recent shows become our most popular shows because the show's always growing.
Sure,
We're
it's
getting
growing
new listeners all the time.
Sure.
So, like, you know, some episode that we did that was just some random day would be more popular than, like, the huge one we did with some big thing going on.
Sure.
Right? Well, I went and looked at this year's. So, like, most years, it's like the shows that we did, like, after August are the top 10.
People are kind of getting back into routines and starting new schedules or something?
Well, and it's just later in the year, so, like, the show had been growing over, even over the last 6 months. So I went back and looked, and I brought out this big spreadsheet that I showed you a second ago. Did you know that I'm like a super numbers person?
No.
I love numbers.
You surprise me all the time.
I crunch numbers. I keep like crazy records of everything. My finances has been in a spreadsheet that I have had for the last 10 years. Like how many people have been listening to the show, what episodes they like. It's sorted by like year, and like everything. There's so much going on. It's like,
fascinating.
How many have we had this year? How many have last year? How many did we get total?
Right, and I'm like, have we met? Like, I just am so shocked. This aspect of your personality.
It's a thing that I keep to myself.
Yeah,
because I'm not ashamed of it, but it's just not a cool thing. But
okay,
we get to do something cool. At least I think it's cool once a year, except for this year, because what I noticed was all of our top 10 episodes from 2020 were from before the month of May.
Oh, wow. What's that about?
Well, I don't know if you heard, but the world shut down around then.
Wow.
So here I am, like, and I had noticed, that, like, you know, people's routines got shook.
Yeah.
Like, you know, a lot of people listen to podcasts going to work or going to the gym, and the gym and work were closed for months and months and months. So I noticed.
But isn't that relieving that it's not on you?
No,
okay.
Not at all.
Okay.
Because, like, at the same time, it was like I knew that we were getting, like, new listeners, because people would be like, you know, I was looking for something that was, like, positive during a negative time. I was hearing that, but I just, like, and I was seeing a trend that it wasn't, like, doing as well. Yeah. But I figured a few episodes had, and I was just wrong until I looked at it. Yeah. And was like, man, like, it was, like, May or before.
Wow.
And then it just dove off a cliff. Yeah. And here's where the positive news came in. Okay. Right? I'm at this point I was like super depressed, and I'm like, why am I even doing this anymore? Like, if it's this is the first time ever, like it just felt like it wasn't growing, you know? And I was like, this is going in the wrong direction for the first time ever in the show's history. And then so I kept going with my crunching the numbers and stuff, and I told my wife, I texted Father Anthony, you know, just like, I'm sad. This is not good. Like I poured my heart and soul into this thing, and it was just dwindling. But then I looked at like the final number, like, you know, total amount of downloads in 2020 versus 2019. Yeah. And even though after May wasn't growing, the show still grew by 61% last year.
Get out of here.
We got 61%. Like, that's like, you know, over half more, right? 61% more downloads than we did in 2019. So then I'm starting to get happy.
So are you just doing more shows? No. How is that mathematically possible? You have to explain some easy things to me.
Every year, it has doubled or more. Okay. Every year it has doubled or more. No, that's not true. 2019, it was around 80%. Okay. So it's still growing. Wow. Obviously not at the rate that it was. Yeah. But it still grew by 61%. So then I was like happy, and I'm like, oh, that's actually uplifting. Yeah. And then I got mad again, because I was like, well, if there wasn't a pandemic, it would have grown by like way more.
Listen to you. You did that earlier in this show too.
By May. That's when most of the growth happened. Yeah. It was 61% more, and then it just fell off, and I'm like, ugh.
Did your routines change? Like, the ways that you were consuming, did that change?
No.
Because it did for me.
I'm weird. I started consuming more podcasts because I had less to do. But I understand that I'm in the minority. But, like, my whole life has become podcasts. I'm either listening to them or editing them at all times.
Or working on them.
Or making one, right? Like right now, right? Mine went up, but I know that most people's went down.
Because I'll tell you, I only just got back into the swing of things. You know, like I've caught up on your show a little bit. And for me, it was, I did a lot of it in the car, just here and there and everywhere, 20 minutes at a time. And so we weren't going, we're just not driving. So.
Yeah, so it was one of those things where it's like I knew it was coming, and it took a bigger drop off than I thought. Yeah. But it still grew. So all of this is to say, thank you that you're still here.
Yes.
Because you're still watching or listening to this.
Yes.
I really appreciate it, because it's been it was a hard year last year for everybody. And for it to still continue to grow, even over the course of the year, even with things kind of going crazy in the middle of the year and after. Thanks for sticking around.
I love the recalculation though of, oh man, that's a bummer. Oh, look at me caring. Okay, how can I, what are the things that people are liking? How can I recreate that? And I think that it's so easily for any type of creator is to get hung up on the outcome instead of the process. We've talked about that a bunch, and you love the process. Like you love this. So you just got to keep at it. You got to keep creating, and that will all happen. That will all follow.
So I the other thing that I like to do is go through like what were the top 10 episodes, like what did we do? Right?
Yeah.
So the number 10 was remember when Easter didn't happen?
Oh right.
The episode was titled "Happy Easter" with "happy" crossed out and the word "sad" kind of written on top of it.
Nice.
Sad Easter. That was, and then we had Jeremy McClellan on, who's a convert. Easter's a big thing for him, and trying to bring joy to people in a rough time. And Liv co-hosted that one. Liv also co-hosted number 9, which was we brought back Life Verse, which we've played a lot since. So that was fun. 175 was you with Chica. That was one of our favorite interviews we've ever done together.
Yes, that was great.
Talking about race. The next one was also you. This was when this episode, I thought it was funny. I didn't even notice it while we were in it, but looking back at it, my world was falling apart, and you became a TikTok star.
Oh, okay.
Right around episode 186.
Okay.
So you were super happy, and I was like, everything's bad. My world's falling apart. You're like, I'm famous now. J-Lo follows me.
Stop it.
There's also a theme here from the next one, episode 181. Entitled "Everything is Falling Apart." I don't know if y'all are seeing a trend.
Yes,
Around
people
March
are tuning in for drama. Who did that one?
Anthony. Number 187, the big draw there was that it was Beardless Blevins. This is when our friend Bearded Blevins cut off his beard, and I think it was popular because everybody was they wanted to see it on YouTube.
Yeah, I got it. I got to know about that.
You have to hear why this happened. 168 was the first one of the year. That was live at SLS. Probably the most fun I have had.
Cool.
Ever
Yeah.
the show, being live at SLS with the live crowd was cool. Number 172, I just wrote the word "live." I don't know what happened on that episode, but "live" was on it. The second most popular show was 189. That was with Father Anthony, and that was the big news that hey, I'm doing Forte Catholic full time now.
Yeah,
so that one, I think people were just interested in what's going on. And then number 1 was our friend Rocky, who converted from Hinduism to Christianity. Father Anthony was on that show.
Awesome.
So that was the number 1. So
that is great.
This is one of the, I almost said the congregation, one of the listeners' favorite things to hear, and one of the co-hosts' least favorite things to hear, except for one person.
What?
The amount of shows in the top 10 that you were the co-host.
Right.
So in 4th place, as we mentioned last week on the show, clinching what I said, there's 2 weeks ago, that no one likes looking at John and I because we're both just overweight white people. So John comes in last place. And then you're in 2nd. But to be fair, you missed half the year.
Yes.
So to be in...
it's fine.
To be third.
I definitely don't feel competitive about this. I do feel very celebratory that you have a top 10 list and that you're really organized this way. I think it's so great.
Very numbers oriented, and no one knows.
But you know what? I love that we've kind of found a theme of people like drama.
Right.
We know that this is going to be at the very bottom of the list because we're starting it off with everything is normal.
Everything's bad. In 2nd place, because you skipped half the year, Liv took 2nd place because you had it last year. Liv with 3. And of course, I mentioned this. I don't remember if it was on the air or off the air, but I was talking with Father Anthony about it because he listened to the episode with John where I said that nobody likes looking at me and John.
Right.
So, I have to be on all of them, but so that it really is just a ranking of how they like to look at you people. Anthony, I think, is the prettiest woman on the show, and that's not a slight to you or Liv. Have you seen him recently?
I feel a little slighted.
Have you seen him recently?
No.
His hair is longer and more luscious
than
yours.
yes. Remind me of the saint. Saint
Ugly.
Starts with a B.
Yeah. Whoever he was.
He was.
But it's funny because when I say it to him, it's meant as a diss to him, and then you and Liv hear it, and you're like, "Hey,
now."
I'm calling him a woman. That's the worst diss. I think so. So that
his
is
luscious locks.
That is the state of the podcast. Anthony wins again.
Congrats, Forte Catholic.
And no one else did. No, the theme is that Anthony won and none of the rest of us did.
Yeah, well, that's fine. It's a joy to be a part of it. I really do look forward to these. Well, I was going to say Tuesdays because I think we used to do it on Tuesdays, but it's set aside time to come catch up with you, hear what's going. And I love that, like, that you and I can kind of like dance on top of the water and then do this occasional deep dive that really kind of seems to resonate with my people that listen. Anyway, like I'll get lots of messages afterwards after being on. So
your friends have been very kind to me.
Oh, I love that.
I have a couple, like Kristen has been very kind to me. She listens. I know she listens to at least all the episodes that you're on.
Isn't that
right?
so? Yeah.
And she'll always send me something. So very kind.
So nice.
Some of your other friends that like have just started following Forte Catholic and it's really nice, which is funny because Liv's friends hate me. But I treat you better than I treat Liv. They hate me because of how her and I fight.
Well, then you should shape up, Taylor.
Yeah, you better shape up because I need a man.
And my heart is set on you.
I don't know the rest, but that was awesome. Thanks for doing that.
Yeah.
So ultimately, all of that is, I mean, you heard the good, you heard the bad. If you are still here and you are one of the people who has been sticking around, thanks. And also, do me a favor. If you like the show, share it with someone.
Yes.
Because it's one of those things where it's like, if you text, like, hey, I think that you would like this, or I think this would help you, make your day, or this will kind of lift your spirits, or Allison preached fire on this. Like, whatever it happens to be, if you could text it to somebody, like, that would be super huge. Because
if you thought of someone while you were listening, you could think of that as a nudge from the Holy Spirit.
And not us telling you to share it. It's definitely the Holy Spirit for sure. So thank you, Allison, making it holy. All right, so we just have a couple of minutes left after the state of the podcast. We have, 4 minutes to address a change that happened in your life that I found out 2 minutes after we recorded last month's show with you.
Oh, uh-huh.
I walked outside.
Yeah. And we're surprised by a
Catholic mom van.
Yeah,
you have
it's a
the
bus.
van that holds 87 clowns and 15 of your family.
For sure. Well, and I was tempted to let that make me feel frumpy, and I'm like, no,
What does frumpy mean?
Boring. And
I'm lumpy. I didn't know if that was the same thing. I was very confused.
But no, I feel smart. I feel smart because it has little car chargers everywhere. There's too many drink holders to even count. People can walk around. I want a disco ball. You gave me the idea that I need to tattoo it. It's big and white. I'm currently in the searching for magnetic flames. I want big flames on the side of her. I think that it's hilarious.
Your Catholic mom van is almost a quarter of a mile long.
Yeah, it's the Sully van. We've named it the Sully van, which that's cutesy, right?
Isn't something being sullied like a bad thing?
No.
Like you sullied your
Good
pants
point.
or something?
My kids will get right to that,
Soiled?
I'm sure.
There's something around that word that is a negative connotation. I'm not sure what it means, but I don't think it's a good thing.
Well, I'm sure we will fulfill it in just a matter of time. Because here's the thing, is that it's so big, it's just like it's more square footage to wreck. I mean, that's right. It's like one...
We got an addition to our house that also has wheels.
Yes. But so far, so good. I mean, the kids... What was happening is that my kids were having a hard time, because they're grown now, practically. Silas is huge, and so he was having a hard time throwing himself over our bench seat of the SUV. It's like we just need some more space.
And here's the thing: it's like
we could never take a friend. Go ahead. Sorry.
You're very well dressed. You're very well put together as a person.
I appreciate that.
You're kind of hoity-toity to me.
That's fine.
I always pictured you you had the Expedition or the Explorer, whatever that last car was.
Yeah.
It was kind of nice and kind of higher end.
Yeah.
And then you just
no.
you're like, I'm one of the people now.
No. It's all transit
the
from
queen
here.
Got dethroned and became a peasant, and you're one of us now.
Totally. This thing was so affordable, and I love it. I really do feel it feels very it's efficient. It's and there's something good about that. It's like finishing your leftovers. It's like that just feels good. It feels good.
I never finish my leftovers. We talked about this. My kids eat all my leftovers because I refuse to eat.
Because you refuse to do it. Mm-hmm. I know. I have to trick my husband too. If he doesn't know that it's a leftover, then I can kind of pass it off. Okay, but it just feels like there's something about having all of this room that feels clean right now. Everybody has a place. They're a little bit separated, so people aren't having, fist fights or wrestling matches. Although we do have room for that, if one should get the idea.
We have room for fist fights. Yes.
We could put a boxing ring in there, but it feels really useful. And we can take their friends now. I mean, we went on this epic road trip to the Grand Canyon. My parents came. We could have never done that. So yeah, I love it.
Well, I got to break in this Catholic mom van. I
yes,
got
you
into
did.
it, and I did something by accident. I got into. I took a leap into the driver's seat, and I was like facing towards the back of the van,
right,
looking at all this space, right. And you said that Silas was having trouble fitting in the other one, even though you have all this space. I had trouble fitting into it, and my backside hit your horn, and my backside tooted the horn quite a few times. And that's how I got to know your van.
But you were like yelling into this cavernous space, like waiting for the echo, and then your butt hits the horn. And I'm like, Taylor can play more than just one instrument.
It scared me.
He can play a van.
But
like a champ.
That was my intro into your Catholic mom van. I think you're a nerd and a loser now. That's our show. I'll be back next week. Say it. Thank you guys so much for listening to today's show and listening all the way to the end. You did it. You get a half of a gold star, not the full gold star. If you want that, you have to hit subscribe wherever you are listening right now. After you've done that, if you're just feeling super generous and want to support the work of Forte Catholic, you can do so at fortecatholic.com/donate. This is my full-time job. This is how I'm able to support my family. So if you were able to give a donation there, we are a Catholic charity. We are a Catholic nonprofit. So all of it is tax deductible over at fortecatholic.com/donate. Thanks so much. God bless. And I'll be back next week.